Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the BFTAA and More Show. I'm your host, Louis George Walker. Excuse me as I get these adjustments together. All right. In this town, I don't know if y'all could hear that. That's an echo. Don't want that. All right. So we're here, and this is the BFTAA and More Show. I'm your host, Louis George Walker, and I come to you from the KUAW radio studios located in the WEB Du Bois Learning Center, located at 4510 East Linwood Boulevard in Kansas City, Missouri. And we're just glad that you're able to join in with us today. We broadcast 24 hours a day on the audio side. We broadcast over Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, Twitch when we're online. But when we're not doing a live video, we're also broadcasting over the audio only radio side. So you can go and pick us up if you've got Get Me Radio or the TuneIn app on your phone or online radio box or MyTuner. If you have a Roku player at home or Apple TV, go to their radio section, search KUAW Radio, and you will hear us right now coming over those. If you're in your car, you can just go to KUAW.org or you can go to the TuneIn app and you search KUAW will come up. If you're at home and you have a smart speaker like an Alexa or Amazon, Google, whatever you may have, if you tell it to play KUAW Radio, we'll come up on that. Just say, Google, play KUAW Radio, or Alexa, play KUAW Radio, and they'll play us. So you can listen to us a lot of ways, and soon you'll be able to pick us up over the FM radio dial in Kansas City, Missouri. So we're working on things. We're constantly changing and growing and trying to make this bigger and better for you. And I'm going to talk about that as we go into the economics of putting on broadcasts here later on in this broadcast. We'll talk about that a little bit because that's a thing that sometimes we take for granted or we assume that people know. But this is a nonprofit radio station. Our funding comes from the listeners, comes from people like you giving us funds to do this. They can come from companies and corporations or anybody that knows that we're broadcasting and wants to help. But the listener is one of the most important people to be able to keep this radio station going, because without you, we can't pay for the internet, the telephone lines that we have here, the lights, all of the stuff that we're using, and nobody's getting paid. So it's actually a thing, a labor of love for many people that are down here, but we need your help in order to keep things going. And you can make a donation if you go to our Facebook page. You can donate there to KUAW. Just go to the KUAW radio page on Facebook, and you can make a donation there, or you can go to our website, www.kuaw.org, and there's a donate button there that you can click on and make your payment with a credit card or debit card directly to KUAW Radio. And we would definitely appreciate that. We're going to be doing more fundraisers. Giving Tuesday is coming up, so we don't want to do a whole lot before then, but we want to build up going towards Giving Tuesday so that you will know that you can make a donation to KUAW Radio, and we would greatly appreciate it. So, as we get ready to go into the day, we've got some of the stuff that we normally do. We always show you what's going on at NASA. Since last week was Labor Day weekend, too, we didn't get to show you what's up in the night sky that you can go out and look at the stars. So we're going to show what's up from NASA so you can see what stars are out, what planets, the moon, all of that you can go out and look with your kids, with your family, or if you just want to go out and do some stargazing. That's all going to be available. All you have to watch is or listen to is What's Up, and that's going to be coming up in just a minute. But before we go into that, one of the first things we always do is show you what's going on this week at NASA. So we're going to go into that, and we will be right back. Let's see. So now let's go to What's Up NASA, or This Week at NASA, excuse me.
Our SpaceX Crew 6 mission safely returns to Earth, the tech demo hitching a ride on our Psyche spacecraft, and studying ancient life on Earth to better understand Mars. A few of the stories to tell you about this week at NASA. On September 3rd, the four-person crew of our SpaceX Crew 6 mission, including NASA astronauts Stephen Bowen and Woody Hoberg, climbed aboard their SpaceX Dragon spacecraft and undocked from the International Space Station. They returned to Earth very early the next morning, splashing down safely in the waters off the coast of Jacksonville, Florida. The international crew contributed to hundreds of experiments and technology demonstrations during its 6 months in orbit. The no earlier than October 5th targeted launch date of our Psyche mission to a metal-rich asteroid is less than a month away. The Psyche spacecraft will have a hitchhiker on the trip, a laser transceiver for our Deep Space Optical Communications or DSOC technology demonstration. DSOC, the agency's first test of high-bandwidth optical communications beyond the moon, aims to show how lasers could increase data transmission rates far beyond the capacity of current radio frequency systems used on spacecraft today. Members of our Mars exploration program and several international partners recently went on a field expedition to the Western Australian outback to study some of the oldest confirmed fossilized life forms on Earth that may be relatable to Mars. Both planets may have had similar pasts, so learning more about the evolution of Earth may help us understand what
back to what's going on at NASA. That's a mistake that I made inadvertently. Here we go. Let's check that out again.
Our SpaceX Crew 6 mission safely returns to Earth, the tech demo hitching a ride on our Psyche spacecraft, and studying ancient life on Earth to better understand Mars. A few of the stories to tell you about this week at NASA. No earlier than October. On September 3rd, the four-person crew of our SpaceX Crew 6 mission, including NASA astronauts Stephen Bowen and Woody Hoberg, climbed aboard their SpaceX Dragon spacecraft and undocked from the International Space Station. They returned to Earth very early the next morning, splashing down safely in the waters off the coast of Jacksonville, Florida. The international crew contributed to hundreds of experiments and technology demonstrations during its 6 months in orbit. The no earlier than October 5th targeted launch date of our Psyche mission to a metal-rich asteroid is less than a month away. The Psyche spacecraft will have a hitchhiker on the trip, a laser transceiver for our Deep Space Optical Communications or DSOC technology demonstration. DSOC, the agency's first test of high-bandwidth optical communications beyond the moon, aims to show how lasers could increase data transmission rates far beyond the capacity of current radio frequency systems used on spacecraft today. Members of our Mars exploration program and several international partners recently went on a field expedition to the Western Australian outback to study some of the oldest confirmed fossilized life forms on Earth that may be relatable to Mars. Both planets may have had similar pasts, so learning more about the evolution of Earth may help us understand what we find now and in the future as we search for signs of ancient microbial life on Mars. An MD-90 airplane was recently flown to Boeing's Palmdale, California facility to be converted into the X-66A experimental aircraft for NASA's Sustainable Flight Demonstrator project. The X-66A, which will utilize a fuel-efficient transonic truss-braced wing configuration, supports the U.S. goal of achieving net zero aviation greenhouse gas emissions by 2050. That's what's up this week at NASA. For more on these and other stories, follow us on the web at nasa.gov/TWAN.
All right, that's what's going on at NASA right now, and we're so glad to see what they're doing. So you see, they do a lot of stuff other than going into space. It's like the work with converting the airliner, that if those experiments type work, that we can get better fuel efficiency and put less greenhouse gases in the air. And there's thousands of planes flying every day. So if we can lower their impact on the environment, that would be a big help in what we're trying to do, is to become more of a sustainable planet, because right now we're using up energy, we're causing more rapid heating than maybe we can handle, then the earth can dissipate, and it's causing a lot of problems and can cause more problems in the future unless we find a way to handle that a lot better. So electrification, but being more efficient even with the gas engines that we use, because gas is going to be around a while. But can we improve the efficiency of planes who use up thousands and millions of gallons of gas a year? Along with automobiles, we ought to be constantly researching and refining and trying to get more fuel efficiency out of the things that we're using. Even if we can't get rid of gas engines anywhere in the near future, that as we're trying to wean ourselves off of them, let's make them more efficient in the way that they run and they operate. So that's the thing that a lot of people are working on as they're switching to electrification also. But we'll probably be using oil for a while. At least I think we will be, from what little I know. But that's what's going on at NASA this week. Now, we also have a segment of Space to Ground to show you what's going on at the space station that we have, that the International Space Station that's up in space, and NASA, with experiments and what they've got that they're carrying out. So let's go right now to Space to Ground from NASA.
Welcome to Space to Ground. I'm Kayla LaFrance. This week started out with a splash as one Dragon mission comes to a close. On Sunday, September 3rd, the members of NASA's SpaceX Crew 6, NASA astronauts Stephen Bowen and Woody Hoberg, UAE astronaut Sultan Al-Niadi, and Roscosmos cosmonaut Andrei Fedyaev undocked from the space station. Several hours later, the Crew Dragon Endeavour re-entered the Earth's atmosphere and began its descent. 4 minutes before splashdown, the Dragon was traveling at 350 miles per hour and was at an altitude of 18,000 feet when the drogue parachutes deployed. And less than 1 minute later, the main parachutes deployed at about 6,000 feet altitude, while the spacecraft had slowed to 120 miles per hour. Endeavour landed safely in the early mornings of September 4th off the coast of Jacksonville, Florida, after 186 days in space. Teams on the SpaceX recovery ship secured the Dragon and hoisted the capsule onto the main deck with the astronauts inside. Once on the main deck, the crew was taken out of the spacecraft and received medical checks before a helicopter ride to board a plane for Houston to be reunited with friends and family. The next Soyuz mission to the space station is getting closer, and its crew is undergoing their final training and checks before they head to orbit. The mission will carry 2 Russian cosmonauts and NASA astronaut Laurel O'Hara into orbit for their long-duration flight. Currently planned for September 15th, 70S will launch atop a Soyuz rocket from the Baikonur Cosmodrome before rendezvousing and docking later that day to the space station. Live coverage will be provided for all upcoming launches and docking events, so follow us on social media or head over to NASA Television, the NASA app, or the agency's website for more information and times. And that's Space to Ground for this week. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.
All right, that was Space to Ground from NASA. So NASA has a lot of information that they can show us and things that we can do. Also, I want to encourage you to go to the NASA website at nasa.gov. You'll find a whole lot of experiments and things you can work with young people. They have a lot of information, videos you can watch, things that they can do and learn with. So turn your children on to the nasa.gov site, and if they like science and those type of things, and you can work right along with them, and you may learn something yourself. NASA.gov. So check that out. Check it out. Now we're going to see what we can take the kids outside, and you can go outside and look into the night sky when it's not cloudy like it's out there right now. But when you have a clear night, a lot of things you can see and you can point out to your children that are in the sky that you don't even need to have a big fancy telescope for. You can look and see and show them a planet, show them different star clusters. And then if you get some binoculars or a telescope at some point, you can even show them more things, and you may be interested in that yourself. So let's go right now to see what's up this week with What's Up. This is a monthly program, so we usually show it on the first Monday of the month, but since this was a holiday, Labor Day, then we pulled it to the second Monday. So here you go with What's Up.
Search of zodiacal light. After brightening our evening skies for most of this year, Venus has now switched over to being a morning sky object. Look for the superheated, cloud-covered planet as a bright beacon in the eastern sky before sunrise throughout the month. It'll appear fairly high in the sky from the northern hemisphere, reaching 30 to 40 degrees above the horizon by month's end, depending on your latitude. Meanwhile, Saturn and Jupiter continue this month as easy-to-observe planets. Find Saturn low in the southeast after sunset, with Jupiter rising a couple of hours later. Saturn then sets a couple of hours before sunrise, leaving Jupiter to rule the sky on its own until the sun comes up. You'll find Jupiter together with the moon high in the southwest before dawn on September 4th. The full moon on September 29th will be the fourth and final supermoon of the year. As we mentioned in last month's video, supermoons are full moons that occur when the moon is near the closest point in its orbit around Earth. This month's full moon is also known as the harvest moon, being the closest full moon to the September equinox. This is around the time when lots of crops in the northern hemisphere reach their peak. The harvest moon provides a few days of bright moonlight right after sunset, which traditionally helped farmers have a bit more time to bring in their crops in advance of the first frost. On cool, moonless September mornings before dawn, you might have an opportunity to search for the zodiacal light. It's a triangular or cone-shaped pillar of faint light that stretches upward from the horizon, and it's easiest to observe around the time of the equinoxes in March and September. The zodiacal light is sunlight reflecting off of an interplanetary dust cloud. This dust fills the inner solar system out to the inner fringes of the main asteroid belt just past Mars. In September, northern hemisphere skywatchers should look for the zodiacal light in the east in the hour or so before morning twilight begins. Southern hemisphere observers will want to look to the west in the hour following evening twilight. Relatively dark skies give you the best chance to observe it, and the moon will be absent from pre-dawn skies during the latter half of September, making zodiacal light easier to spot north of the equator during that time. Now, most of this dust orbits the sun in the same plane as the planets do, so it's like looking out into the disk of the solar system. It's thought to have several potential sources, including comets, the planet Mars, and asteroids. And speaking of asteroids, we'll soon have opportunities to study one here on Earth when NASA's OSIRIS-REx mission delivers its samples from asteroid Bennu this month. The OSIRIS-REx spacecraft collected a sample of rocks and dust from the surface of the near-Earth asteroid in 2020, and it's now approaching Earth to return them for study. As it nears Earth, the spacecraft will release its sample return capsule, which will land in Utah on September 24th. Here are the phases of the moon for September. Stay up to date with all of NASA's missions to explore the solar system and beyond at nasa.gov. I'm Preston Dykes from NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, and that's what's up for this month.
All right. So that's a lot of the things that are going on with NASA this month, and the stuff that we should be paying attention to. Hey, I hope you had a great weekend, Labor Day holiday. Last week we weren't here. I happened to be down in Arkansas in Pine Bluff, my wife's hometown. But we had a great time and actually got to do a little bit of STEM activities because we went on a fishing trip to Lake Dardanelle in Arkansas, in Russellville, Arkansas, or right outside of Russellville, Arkansas. And I've got to check out some of the wildlife that's around there, and they had a real nice visitor center and museum with some of the fish that are in the lake that are common to that area, and they actually had a working beehive in there. Some of these visitor centers you should take your kids to when you're traveling, absolutely free. And they had a beehive with plastic tubes so the bees could go outside and collect their pollen. They could come back and make honey and make the honeycomb, and you could see it all. You know, it was right there in the room, in the air conditioning, that you could see the bees working on the hive and that they were doing what bees do. They had turtles in there, a lot of things. And taking family to things like that are free, that are nature events, that can spur a curiosity towards biology, about being a naturalist, looking at trees and different plant life. And your child may become interested in something like that. So we want to try and give them every opportunity to learn new things, to see new and different things. Even if you don't like just being outside, going in one of those type of visitor centers or museum or the aquarium that's just opening at the zoo, where you can stay in no bugs and air conditioning, but your child can still see a lot of things. So I know some of us don't like to walk around in the hot sun and the bees and the bugs and all of that, but there's things that you can do inside, and you can still see a lot of these creatures, not necessarily in their natural habitat, but in simulated natural habitat. So take your kids out to see nature, because that is STEM also: science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Some people think that STEM just means technology, just means computers, and it doesn't. I was talking to a gentleman this weekend that we're going to get together and talk and maybe be able to bring some of that. But he is he teaches pharmacy. And how to become a pharmacist and all of that. And that is science. That is STEM. So you don't have to be into computers and stuff. You may just want to learn how to be a pharmacist. There's a lot of professional pharmacists have their own businesses, or you can work in pharmacology at hospitals or at different, like Walgreens or any place like that. But those are career paths in STEM that may not be what some people want to think STEM is. Oh, I'm not interested in computers and stuff. Yeah, but you may be interested in different parts of science. And that is a part of science. Being out there in nature, if you want to take care of animals, that's STEM. Because being a doctor, being a veterinarian, that's science. That's science. So STEM incorporates a lot of what we do, not just computers, science, technology, engineering, mathematics. So we hear, and a lot of people are pushing people towards being engineers, about being into the technology, but we also ought to push our young people into all of the sciences. There's a lot of different sciences out there. Just like there's not one type of engineer, there's not one type of scientist. There's a lot of different fields that are incorporated in that, and we need to make sure that we're letting our young people see all of the different things that they can do, all of the different aspects, because we don't want them to say, well, I'm not good with this, so I don't even get in those fields at all. No, even if you can't be an engineer, a lot of times there are jobs, there are careers, there's entrepreneur opportunities working in design, working in the same thing that engineers do, but that you don't need the degree, and that you may work under an engineer, but you can make a good living. So those are things that we have to look at. I'm also wanting to talk about our health. We need to work on our health. That is a STEM thing, taking care of our own health, which is the science, knowing how the body works. I was looking at an article from blackmatters.com right now, as a matter of fact, and it talks about Alzheimer's. What's that? Okay, that was interesting. So it's talking about Alzheimer's in African Americans. Are you at risk, and what you need to know? So according to the Alzheimer's Association, older black Americans are 2 times more likely than their white counterparts to have Alzheimer's disease or cognitive impairment, but 35% less likely to be diagnosed in the early stages. So we have 200% a better chance of being affected by Alzheimer's, but only we're 35% less likely to be diagnosed in the early stages. And the exact reasons why African Americans are at higher risk is not known. But there may be a connection to the higher rates of heart disease that exist in the black community. So we have to look at, okay, look like I froze up on the screen. I don't know if you can hear me, but I see that I am not moving. Let's see if we can jumpstart that in a way. Okay, yeah. But we have to remember about technology is that it can get hosed up at times. And right now is one of them times. I don't have a good connection and I am not moving. But as we were talking about Alzheimer's, let's see if I can bring back one of the videos. The other video is still, well, I say it.
Welcome to Space to Ground. I'm Kayla LaFrance.
Yeah,
This week
yeah.
started out with a splash as one Dragon mission comes to a close. On Sunday, September 3rd, the members of NASA's SpaceX Crew 6, NASA astronauts Stephen Bowen and Woody
Okay.
Hoberg, UAE astronaut Sultan Al-Niadi, and Roscosmos cosmonaut Andrei Fadayev undocked from the space station. Several hours later, the Crew Dragon Endeavour re-entered the Earth's atmosphere and began its descent. 4 minutes before splashdown, the Dragon was traveling at 350 miles per hour and was at altitude of 18,000 feet when the drogue parachutes deployed. And less than 1 minute later, the main parachutes deployed at about 6,000 feet altitude, while the spacecraft had slowed to 120 miles per hour. Endeavour landed safely in the early mornings of September 4th off the coast of Jacksonville, Florida, after 186 days in space. Teams on the SpaceX recovery ship secured the Dragon and hoisted the capsule onto the main deck with the astronauts inside. Once on the main deck, the crew was taken out of the spacecraft and received medical checks before a helicopter ride to board a plane for Houston to be reunited with friends and family. The next Soyuz mission to the space station is getting closer and its crew is undergoing their final training and checks before they head to orbit. The mission will carry 2 Russian cosmonauts and NASA astronaut Laurel O'Hara into orbit for their long-duration flight. Currently planned for September 15th, 70X will launch atop a Soyuz rocket from the Baikonur Cosmodrome
All
for
right, we got
rendezvousing
just a
and
little
docking
technical
later that day to
difficulty
the
here.
space station. Live coverage will be provided for all upcoming launches and docking events. So follow us on social media or head over to NASA Television, the NASA app, or the agency's website for more information and times. And that's Space to Ground for this week. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.
All right. So we're back again. As I say, you can't see me right now. Looks like we have a frozen camera. I don't know if any of my other cameras in the office are working, but you can continue to listen. And this is George Walker, and I am still broadcasting from KUAW Radio, even though it looks like my camera does not want me to be broadcasting. I don't have another camera turned around here that I can get to quickly. So I'll just finish up by letting you know that we are still talking about the Alzheimer's. Let me take that down and give you a bit of a screen. Maybe I can show you some of this Alzheimer's that they are showing. I tell you, some days we just have the, as Rick says, the gremlins are in here. And the gremlins will cause you a little trouble from time to time. That's okay. We're not going to let the gremlins bother us. We'll work down with what we've got. Oh, you see, today's video, let's go there. No, let's not go there. We got the chat overlay, but okay. Again.
What's up for July? Mars and Venus go their separate ways.
Want that? Okay, this has been an interesting day. I came down here, the technology of my screens, I think we had a power hit because my screens were acting a little funny. And now it seems like we even have more of a problem. But that's okay, that's okay. Let's look and see if we can get you some information this way about Alzheimer's in the African American community. Just a second, we'll do a little bit more. And this was from, as I said, blackhealthmatters.com. And we
What's up for July? Mars and Venus.
That. Okay, let's see if we can make this interactive. I'm not sure. But we're playing with it, and we're going to try and make it do what it do. Okay, this is it from Black Health Matters, and let's interact with that. Not that. Oh, that's the thing. I never can get this to scroll or page up and page down as I'm interacting. So we're on the page. But we can't move around on the page. So I can interact. Or I haven't figured out how to move around on a page that I've brought up, which is a little frustrating, but that's okay. We'll learn how to interact with that later. But, all right. Now, about Alzheimer's, and that you may have that in your family, maybe not, but you want to know, are you at risk? Black patients are also more likely to have more risk factors, worse symptoms, and more severe disease with Alzheimer's. Research suggests that there are multiple risk factors for Alzheimer's. Risk factors associated with Alzheimer's include factors we can control and some we can't control. So let's think about that. So about Alzheimer's, the preventable risk factors, and there are some risk factors that are considered preventable, so you can make a conscious effort to help reduce your risk of developing Alzheimer's. Avoid head injuries, since physical damage or trauma to the brain may result in the development of cognitive impairment. Stay safe by preventing falls and wearing head covering or protection if you're taking part in potentially dangerous activities like roller skating, bicycling, playing football, or any of those type of things. You also should make heart-healthy choices. Research suggests that up to 80% of the people who had Alzheimer's had heart disease. So poor heart health, including the presence of heart disease, may correlate to poor brain health. If you have conditions such as high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, or if you have had a stroke, work closely with your healthcare provider to monitor and manage these conditions. So your heart has a lot to do with pumping blood to your brain. Your brain needs the blood to get its oxygen to live and to continue to function. So heart disease may limit that or affect that in a negative way. Also, take care of yourself. Exercise, eat healthy, and avoid excessive use of harmful substances such as alcohol and tobacco. So an exercise program is good to have. Go for walks, do aerobics, do water aerobics, get into yoga, Pilates, or whatever. Eat healthy. You may want to make sure that you're eating a healthier diet, heavy with green leafy vegetables, with fruits, with grains, with nuts, and a little bit lighter on the meat, especially the red meat, and that may help you keep the Alzheimer's and your health in general, keep you in better shape. Now, there's some facts and myths about getting Alzheimer's, and you need to know about those also. And one of the myths is memory problems are normal, and most people who are older experience them. While forgetting or losing things occasionally is normal, memory problems such as poor judgment and decision making, losing track of dates, or forgetting familiar people is not. So many black patients delay seeking medical attention for memory concerns or changes because they think what they are experiencing is normal. It's not normal to forget everybody, to forget all the people you know, or the way to go home and things like that. So that would be something that you'd want to start checking out. If you get lost easily on a trip that you normally take, then there could be a problem. Also, another myth, Alzheimer's only impacts older people. I shouldn't be concerned if I am young. Well, older individuals are at a higher risk for Alzheimer's. However, early onset Alzheimer, while rare, usually impacts those between the ages of 30 and 60. So you still need to be taking care of yourself. You still need to be aware of how you're feeling, how your body is reacting. Another myth, Alzheimer's can't be treated. While there isn't a definitive cure for Alzheimer's, there are treatment options that can help treat symptoms. Clinical trials help researchers continue to evaluate potential treatments. So that's good. Diversity in clinical trials is important too. We need to think about volunteering for some of these trials. A lot of times we as blacks say, they're experimenting on us and we don't want to go, but race and ethnicity may play a role in how individuals with Alzheimer's disease respond to treatment. Unfortunately, there is a lack of trust for clinical research and trial participation among black Americans. This is due largely to a history of medical bias and discrimination toward black Americans. The Alzheimer's Association recognizes the importance of clinical trials in the management and prevention of Alzheimer's disease and the need for those in the black community to participate in these trials. To learn more about the Alzheimer's disease and care partner support resources, visit Novo Nordisk Alzheimer's disease webpage. So that's a little bit of information about the disease of Alzheimer's. If you just tuned in and you don't see me, you see the screen there, but there's nobody on it. I had a video hiccup, and my camera isn't working. Let me see if it started back, because sometimes these things will fix themselves. No. So see, I'm on there now, but you've got a frozen picture of me. I'll leave that up. I wish I'd been looking up when it froze up, but I wasn't, so that makes it even harder. I will try and get back with that later. One of the things I did want to talk to you about too, though, on our station here as a volunteer nonprofit organization, our funding is very low. We depend upon donations from people like you that can help us get the new computers and cameras we need to keep these glitches from happening while we're doing the show. But I did get a letter from a guy that we had been showing the Warren Valentine Truth Fighters show. We had that on daily for the last 4 or 5 years. You've been able to listen to the Truth Fighters with Warren Valentine. But recently we had to discontinue the daily showing of it because we were not financially able to keep the show going. So we would like to say that we want to get that back on. I have some old shows of Warren, so I will play some of the best of, but since we do have listeners, but this will be shows that have already been played. Some of the information is behind time because he does a lot of topical stuff about what's happening right now, and it may be a year or two ago, so that would throw you off. But I'm going to play some of the old shows that I saved of Warren Ballantyne's so that we can work on trying to get the funding to get the show started back up. We need to raise about $15,000 to bring Warren Ballantyne back on the air for another year here in Kansas City. And $15,000, while it may sound like a lot of money, if you're putting on a show like he does every day, if you only get paid $15,000 a year, you're not making much of a living. So he was asking that each radio station help to fund his show, and we just weren't able to step up to the plate, to be perfectly honest about it. But we do want to do that. So we're going to start a fund drive for all of you that want to get Warren Ballantyne back on KUAW radio, and we'll be announcing it while we're playing some of the best of Warren Ballantyne. But we need to get donations in the amount of right at $15,000, $12,500. Between that and $15,000, we could probably bring his show back on. So I'm appealing to you now. If you know somebody, if you like the show, write in to us. Let us know. And then we're going to start a donation that you'll be able to send your donation in specifically for the Warren Ballantyne show. So we want to have it where you will mark your donation for Warren Ballantyne, and we want to use those funds to get the show. So that would be a grant to us or a donation to us that is directed, that would be used, and we would enter that into our bookkeeping system, that those funds are not to be used for anything but the Warren Ballantyne show. So we'd like to bring him back. If we could start the fundraising drive and maybe have him back live come January, would be a great thing. So if you're interested, if you think this is a good idea, contact KUAW Radio and let us know, because we want to bring Warren Ballantyne and the Truth Fighters back to KUAW Radio. So help us do that. You'll be hearing that. I'll be playing some of his past shows that'll be starting up this week, and we'll be asking for donations to bring Warren Ballantyne back to KUAW Radio. All right, so that's my show for today. I'm glad that you took the time out of your day to listen to the BFTAA and More show. I'm sorry that my picture had froze up, that you can hear me, but you don't see me live. That is something that we do not want to do on a regular basis. But I heard a couple of pops, and the next thing I know, this is what was coming on. But thank you for listening. We'll be back again next Monday from 5 to 5:45 for the BFTAA and More show with your host, Louis George Walker, and I'm so glad that I was able to bring this to you this evening. You have yourself a great evening, and I will talk to you later. Bye-bye.